Welcome to the Wildly Healthy Podcast, your go-to for shaking things up and living an out-of-the-box life. I'm Jennings Waterhouse, a mompreneur, project addict, and recovering type A perfectionist, and lover of all things creative. I'm here with Dr. Gloria Waterhouse, otherwise known as Mama G, a clinical psychologist and integrative mental health warrior who is committed to helping others achieve deep transformations. Let's release the struggle, flip aging on its head, smash some cultural norms, and say see ya to perfectionism and overwhelm. Join us if you're serious about kicking ass and thriving. Say goodbye to your inner Martha Stewart and hell's yes to a little more leather, fringe, and spice. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up for a wildly healthy ride. Hey, Kat. So excited to have you on our episode of the Wildly Healthy Podcast today. And you are coming in from West Hollywood. So that's always exciting.
I am. Thanks for letting me onto the podcast. I know that it's both you and Mama G's baby. And so I'm just so excited to be on here with you today.
Well, I just want everyone to know that you're one of our favorite people, and she is so talented. So for you guys listening, Kat is an amazing artist, painter. She is a social media marketing manager. Is that what we call you? A content creator.
Yep.
She has her own podcast. And what is your podcast called, Kat?
So my podcast is called Tom Cat Radio. It's conversations with creatives, pioneers, and those that get shit done.
That just sounds like us, doesn't it?
You and Mama G do know how to get shit done, both of you. So I think that, and you both are creative, and you're both pioneers too, at least in my eyes. So I know I gotta have you guys on the podcast soon. So
I know. Well, we'd love to join you over there. So I'm really excited to have you here, and I love talking to you about all things creative, all things. You just have such amazing ideas, and I'm curious for all the people listening, how do you kind of balance these different worlds? Because the social media is you have to be really organized, you have to be planning, it's very techy, and then you have the other side of you, which is like the painter. I've seen you out on sidewalks doing signage and street art and all sorts of things. So like, how do you manage those two different worlds?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for all the sweet compliments. And I would say that I've had such a great blessing of getting to really know both you and your mom on a deeper level, and you as well. Especially we had the time of getting to hang out in California a little while ago when you were out here. And I really resonated with you when you said that you are just a girl that gets it all done and piles on those projects. And are a recovering type A. That totally identified with me as well. And I am just one of those girlies that I feel bad being out and about sometimes and saying oh, I could totally make that too, or I could totally do that too. And that's definitely been a part of my DNA. And to kind of give a little bit of a background, I have been in marketing probably for about the past 10 years, and then created my own media studio 2 years ago when I moved to LA. And it definitely, I know you can probably agree with this, and other entrepreneurs can agree with this. It's like each year you just learn something new, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it gets a little bit more smoother and seamless with the systems you create. And sometimes I feel I hope it's okay to let a few little spicy words out, but I feel like a badass boss bitch each and every year. But then sometimes I feel like I am a business baby and I don't know anything. But it's nice, again, to be talking to you, and I hear this from other entrepreneurs, that this is just a thing that happens. And I think that the balance of it is something that I still am exploring, but there is an artist named Daniel Arsham. He's a fabulous artist, incredibly talented. And one of the things that always spoke to me about him is that he will go from and this gentleman works with like multi-million dollar art pieces that he creates. So this man like makes some money, creates money, so he's pretty vetted, but he goes from having a finance meeting in the morning to then painting, then goes back to his accounting. And so I've tried that system of, maybe I have this hour of creativity, this hour of admin. But I'm starting to find that personally for me in the mornings, those are my best hours of producing emails, doing the media, and doing tasks that are very a little bit more type A, I would say. And then in my afternoons, when my brain isn't exactly capable of looking at a spreadsheet anymore, I find that in the afternoon hours, that's best to do the murals, the paintings. And I think that it probably all changes, right, as we get older, as with each year of our business. So at the moment, the way that I balance it is in the morning, admin, much more structured tasks, and in the evening is when I get more into the like flowy creative. But it also kind of just depends on a deadline too, right? Like sometimes even when I'm not in the mood to be doing a commission painting, which I'm always so grateful for, it just sometimes is a situation where it's like, girl, you better get your freaking gotta get your garments on, gotta go get painting. Yeah, totally. So it's all a process and just discovering that too.
I know. And that, I love that about finding the different types of flow that you can have at different times of the day, and how you can kind of organize your routine around that, which I suck at because I've really like my whole life been against routine until the last couple of years as I'm maturing.
Really? Oh, wait, I didn't even realize that you were even, because it's so funny, first meeting you, I was like, oh my gosh, you better get your freaking routine together because Jennings is routine. So that's so funny because I would have taken you as like always a routine girly, but you've kind of just recently then been getting into the routine, or like a specific.
I think I always have kind of rebelled against having the lockdown. I think that creative part of me doesn't like having restrictions because I want to be able to go with my mood. I want to be able to like, I don't want to commit to anything too far in advance. But I also
totally.
Then there's the type A part, which is like, then I read all the books about tiny habits and routines and optimization and all of that stuff. So it's kind of like this tug of war that's constantly going on. But what I've realized now as I've, been navigating this is it's more about the habits and less about the timing. So like now different activities in, or the different, like working out, let's say, like I don't go every Monday at 7 a.m. at the same exact time, but I know that on Mondays there's going to be a place for that. Is that right? And that's
totally.
But I feel like Bentley just broke herself in. I feel like if you can focus on like the habits and the things that are really important to you, then if you mess up, if you fuck up, like if you're like your routine gets screwed up, then you're not throwing everything out the window. Like, so for somebody like me, I'm traveling, the boys have a messed up schedule, things are always changing. And so it's really hard to set up a routine that's the exact same every single week.
Right.
So yeah, but I've always that's the R word.
Oh, that's such nice licensing that you give. And I'm sure I can't possibly be the only one of you speaking about resistance to structure, because that's also something that I am still going through, like have gone through. And I think as an starting the journey as an entrepreneur, that was so daunting of a personal belief to come up against, because I would look at others and think, oh, like maybe as an artist, or as a creative, as an artist, I'm not meant to have a business. I'm not meant to be successful in the business world because I'm just don't want structure. So that's such great licensing to hear from you, because you have quite a roster of accomplishments in and out of the business world. So I'm so glad that you say that, because that absolutely aligns with me. And I think you make a great point too in the focusing on habits and not time blocking, because I feel that time blocking sometimes is I don't know, this probably isn't the right way to put it, but like sexified of time blocking the business day. Like we're gonna do that and do that. And but then right, life happens. I'm sure, especially as for everybody listening, I do not have kids, and my dog does not even come close to a child. So I can imagine with kids that's even more important to focus on the habits and not the specific time that you're allocating to get something done.
Well, I'm with you. I totally think time blocking is like the sexiest thing. So I have planners, I have markers, I have all of this stuff. And then I've just realized, like, okay, you're spending all this time planning it out when everything's going to change anyway. But it does give you a feeling of like control, or like a vision of the things that you want to accomplish. And for me, if I have the focus on what I want to do, I can get it done, right? Like if it's
Yeah.
written down, if it's on the vision board for the week, then it's pretty easy to make stuff happen. It's kind of when you're in that place of indecision and in the place of like beating yourself up because you aren't getting enough done, or you're, behind, or all of those. That's where I feel like I would love to eliminate more of that wasting of that time and spend more productively on like, hey, what are the things that I'm really excited about? What are the projects I'm working on? When I get ramped up about that, it's so easy to get stuff done. Now, Kat, one of the best qualities that you have, and I hear this from everybody that knows you, is that you are the best hype girl for people. And it's true. It's so true. So how do you feel like, as you and I are probably, I'm 43. How old are you?
I am 28.
You're 28. And I think I'm like the first year of a millennial and you're like the last year of a millennial.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of have the weird time of like being an 80s baby, where it was all corporate and, achieve and high heels and suits and all of that stuff. And
yeah,
perfectionism and kind of high achieving driven parents. And I've had to retrain or recondition myself to not believe that my self-worth is based on accomplishments necessarily, which is very difficult for me. And I'm curious, like at your age, do you feel like, women are getting more compassionate with themselves, more supportive of other women, not so competitive? Or do you feel like we're still in the same, like we all have the same problems?
What's so funny is that so I'm going to give like a little tiny narrative, and it's not my narrative. It's actually the narrative of Paris Hilton. So I previously thought that Paris Hilton was like this rich trust fund girly that like, oh God, she just like, I didn't honestly have much merit for her or like thought much of her. I watched her documentary and I have so much respect for that woman now. And truly, and it's because of the way that she has built her businesses, because she has built businesses. And actually, when we see this like high squeaky, that's hot type of like her persona, that's actually a character that she's created. And when you listen to her documentary, you hear people from her past, her family from her past say, you know, what is this voice? Like, who are you? And something that gave her merit in my eyes is that she is very honest about how she is one of the pioneers of like selfies and like putting yourself out there, but she takes the responsibility for understanding what she has created, which is that negative side of selfies, right? And about that side of seeing little girls like look at themselves in the camera and not be able to take a photo without a filter. And, you know, I think that it's funny sometimes when, of course, I've totally caught myself saying this, like, oh, I wish I was like, you know, born in like the 70s or the 80s. But then I'm sure that there's, you know, women that are your age, they're like, I wish I was actually born when you were because of this, and that. And I think that my hope is that as women, at least, that we are recognizing the importance of being together, that we are recognizing the importance of loving yourself and at your body. And I definitely do think, because when I was growing up, Abercrombie and Fitch was huge. And of course, that's not a young company. That's a company that's been around for a while. And I hope it's okay. I'll dilute. I freaking hated my inner thighs. And I've been thinking about how this like inch piece on my body was the bane of my existence. And I do think that it's such a great thing that skinny, tight jeans are not the all end fad. And that, right, we are seeing in the media, we are seeing normal bodies, and we're seeing a plethora of normal women's bodies. So I do think that compared to probably when you were my age, it seems like it has been much more accepting of what does a woman's body look like. I think that because of media, and I think that women honestly will for a long time have those issues of perfectionism, because women are also, we're just freaking tough and we're resilient, right? We have a period, or if we don't have a period, we go into labor, or if we're not going into labor, we have menopause. Like, we're tough freaking creatures that know a lot of shit. Like,
Easy.
yeah, we could probably make that like a whole episode in and of itself. But my hope is that it is better and that it's getting better. And I think that whatever journey you're on, whether it's no makeup, or maybe it's a little makeup, or maybe it is like fixing your nose, if your nose is just the bane of your existence, then so be it. But I think accepting every other woman's journey, and the hope that embodying the body that we were truly given, however you want to continue to mold it, will be accepted. My hope is that it is better. What do you think? What do you think?
No, I just think it's always going to be a struggle. I did want to say that where we live, I lived right next to a school. So Paris Hilton went to this outdoor, like, culinary school, and he broke out of there like in the night or something, crossed like creek and like a whole bunch of fields, and ran away. And she made it to the little tiny town of Bonners Ferry to get her toenails done. I think that's where they got a lot of respect. She busted out, and then she made it.
Oh, that's my president. I'm just kidding. That's so funny. I mean, if that's not a freaking tough woman right there. And I feel like that's almost like a metaphor for being a woman, that you can break out of like an outdoor intensive camping. Yeah, like tear through the woods, but then at the end of the day, like sit down and like get your tone up. Like that's so funny. And I feel like that actually really sums up like the experience of being a woman. Obviously not, right? Thank God my parents did not send me to like an outdoor school. I don't know if I would have made it out that quickly and to get my toenails done. But that is so funny. Oh my gosh.
It's funny. But I hope that it's getting better. And you know, I look at even my boys, I can't imagine having girls because like even the boys are like, you know, they know all, like they have a better shoe collection than I do, right? Like they have amazing, like such cool collection of shoes. They know like everything that's going on in like culture and who's like hot, you know, all the stuff. And I'm like, I don't want them to feel the pressure to be superstar, even though I want them to be superstars. You know, I won't lie. But I don't want them to think that they are only measured by like these amazing accomplishments, because I know that that's what I've struggled with, is like feeling like, oh, you know, the things that you're doing aren't measuring up to something incredible. When you know, we all are making an impact every single day in our own little world. And that is being a superstar. Right.
Totally.
So I hope it's getting better. And I hope people feel, I hope especially women are being kinder to themselves. I hope that the dialogue that's going on in people's head is easing up and being more supportive. And I hope that everybody has a hype girl like you in their life that makes them, that's there to support them, because I think a lot of women don't have, you know, they don't have friends that are on the same path with them and challenging them, but at the same time, like cheering them on every step of the way and like really believing in what they're doing and supporting each other. So I'm really grateful to you for that.
Oh, thank you. You know, I just really, I know it sounds so cheesy, but everybody has something that they are talented at, and they were truly, you know, I'm not much of like a religious woman. I'm definitely a spiritual woman. I do believe in God, but there was a reason that you were put on this earth. And I just think that one of the best presents that you can give to somebody is being a mirror and reflecting to somebody reflecting that you are here for a freaking reason, and don't be letting anything else deter you from believing that. And it's been, again, like I'm 28, and so I know sometimes I know things, sometimes I don't really know shit at all. But if there is one thing that I've known ever since I was like 5, is that seeing somebody and seeing their face when they are seen, when they are heard, like you don't need some pre-Ivy League school to be reaching incredible heights. You actually just really need a supportive system. You don't need that kind of schooling. You don't need these trainings. And right, that's probably why it seems that life coaching and supporting coaching and therapists, and of course we were actually talking about this with Mama G, and I'm sure you guys will touch on that in the future of how to distinguish which one is best for you. But that might be why I'm curious to know if that's why life coaching and coaches have just become more popular. Is maybe people are realizing you actually don't always need to be getting a master's, you don't always need to be getting a bachelor's. Like what you need is confidence, and then direction, because you can have direction, but if you don't have confidence, it's hard to get to wherever you'd like to be. But thank you, I appreciate that though.
Yeah, I think that's a cool thing. I think it's really cool now that you can have so much access to so many different disciplines, modalities, professions, and it's available to anybody, like for the most part, you can go out there and you can become a master at whatever you want. You don't have to necessarily, get into, Harvard or the top tier program for this. You can actually go and practice and experience and learn it, if you'd like to. And I think that is an amazing transition, and I think it's super exciting for, like, when I think about my boys, I'm like, I don't know if they're going to go to college, like
Yeah,
honestly, as a kid, I would have never thought that would be a possibility in our world. I just thought that's how you become successful. But I love that there's so many different avenues for us to choose from. And at any point in your life, whether you're, 25, 45, 85, you can create a whole new world for yourself. And I find that
totally.
super exciting.
Totally. I do too. And yeah, it's just a really exciting time to be alive because of the resources at your fingertips, like whether being in school or out of school too.
You are in West Hollywood, so we say that you're a WeHo. How do you feel about living in a big city? Where we are, so many people are moving away from California, whatever. But I'm actually going tomorrow to LA, and I'll get to see you, so that's really awesome. How do you, you know, I went to school at UC Irvine, and I lived in San Diego for a few years, and California is kind of like a whole different world in terms of pressure and feeling that competitive vibe and kind of the struggle to even make it. And then you add on top of that, like the whole art world, which is very, not necessarily super inclusive. So how do you navigate like all the pressures of your community and the society that you're actually living in?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The California is not set up for the everyday human. Like you do have to come out here and you have to work your freaking butt off. But that's also kind of like New York City too, right? And it's also Miami as well. And I think that the number one reason why I made it here and have stayed here is because of my community. 110%. It is my community. I guess you can also chalk it up to this drive of my vision that I've always had. And I've always stayed just stayed really strong and loyal to that. But yeah, I think that what I've noticed in the past few years, and I've had some really incredible things happen in my life the past few years, it relates to being very aware of who is in my circle. And, I'm not the type of person that's, you can't sit with us. I'm not some type of mean girls gal, anyone can sit with you. But when it does come to your inner circle, if I am not feeling supported, and I think another thing too, besides the support and kindness, is that as you don't have to just be an entrepreneur, you could be a freaking full-time stay-at-home mom. And if somebody isn't respecting your time, and that sometimes, unfortunately, I can't hang out, sometimes I can't get back to your text. It might take me a week to get back to your text, and I might have to voice note you instead of calling you. I'm so sorry. I wish I had 3 humans attached to me, but unfortunately I don't. And by understanding that, and I'm really going through that period right now because I feel that I'm in a big growth spurt with my business and my art career, is just having to let certain people fall off, right? And I'm a recovering people pleaser for sure, probably will be for plenty more years. And it's hard to let people go. And you think back to yourself like, oh, well, maybe I could have just, met for coffee, or, oh, they would have been so happy. But if they don't understand that you're in the middle of building an empire, whether it be a micro empire or a macro empire, if they don't understand that right now in your season of life that you're not able to support as much or to be in communication as much, you have to let those people go, and the proper people will stay in your life. And, maybe that is when I start to get spiritual or religious, is because God, whomever, whatever is up there, anywhere, is putting the right people in your path. And it's funny too, because I remember going to an artist's show, and she talked about how for 3 months she didn't talk to her friends, was in her hole, in her cubby. And what came out of it was a beautiful work, a beautiful, beautiful body of work. And at her show, she thanked those that were there. And she said, "Thank you for sticking with me, because you easily could have left, but you didn't." And I think you have to think, at the end of the day, whoever's going to fall off, it's really unfortunate, but you won't be at the opening of your business. You won't be at the opening of your show. And so if they can't stick with you in the hard times, whether that be not being able to hang out or communicate, then they won't be able to deserve you when all of that, when the fruits of your labor show. So I think that my community and who I'm surrounding myself with is huge. And the other aspect too is there is a woman that I've been doing her work for a while. Her name is Lacey Phillips. Her work is called To Be Magnetic. I highly recommend. I love her too. She's the best. And she talks about expanders, and you're an expander to me, and Mama G is a huge expander to me. And what an expander is somebody that is doing something that you desire, and they are expanding your brain that it is possible, right? And you've talked about it, and Mama G has talked about neuroplasticity, and I'm going to butcher it because I'm an artist, not a doctor or psychologist, but essentially, right, like neuroplasticity is the ability to recreate new habits and new beliefs. And so by surrounding myself with people that are supportive, but also going out and finding mentors, or even just going to a place where I know that person hangs out. I know that sounds creepy. I'm not stalking anybody.
No,
I totally do that. But putting yourself there and finding your expanders is huge. And if you were, because before living in LA, I was living in my parents' house in my childhood bedroom, feeling like a loser at 26. And because I couldn't be around any of those expanders, I hopped on YouTube and I would just play them in the background. And it sounds a bit psychotic, because maybe it is a little psychotic, but having them in my environment, if I couldn't physically be there, I was going to make sure that virtually they were there. And so, that's beneficial to people that aren't able to be in the city yet. You can still be expanded. So I know that was a bit of a long-ended answer.
Well, I think that's such a good point, because especially where we are in a small town, sometimes your world can kind of start to shrink, and you put a lot of emphasis on the smaller group of people that might be around you. And I have that practice like you do of really looking for, how can I fill myself up? How can I expand myself by surrounding myself with bigger energy, with people that are doing the things I want to do, that really are way ahead of me in so many ways. How can I connect with those people, whether it's a podcast, whether it's going to an event, watching a YouTube, taking a course. And what I've found is that when you are filling yourself up like that all the time, it's uncomfortable to be around some of the people in your life, because they're not really doing that work sometimes. And you might be starting to grow into that more expanded version of yourself. And so it's really important to start to notice, like, hey, it makes me feel really uncomfortable to be around negativity. It really makes me uncomfortable to be in this group of friends that are talking about things that maybe aren't at the highest level. And so
giving yourself a little grace and giving them grace and just saying like, I might need a little more distance and that's okay. Loving them where they are. But also just knowing that you're doing all this work in order to elevate, and that's going to get you closer to some of those things that you want to experience. So I love that answer. And I'm always inspired like when we talk about West Hollywood or Venice or these cool places, and when I travel, I imagine like, what would it be like to totally change your life and like go back to something radically different, like go back to city life or throw yourself in New York City. Like it's kind of exciting to think about how you could recreate things and how you would fit in if you changed your environment that much. So
Totally. And I think that we live in just such an exciting time of while there are right, of course, negatives with social media, and there's negatives with media. There's also the positivity of social media and being exactly like you truly, depending on how many computers, monitors, cell phones, like you can be building your own little city, right? Like you truly, there's so many different tools that we have now that you can transform your space and transform yourself as well. Definitely.
So speaking of transformation, you work with a lot of people that are maybe starting out on their journey to express themselves online, and that's a very vulnerable place for people. It's worry about what people are going to think. You like hate being in front of the camera. You hate your words. You hate the way you sound. You do all of these. And so a lot of us shut ourselves down, and we end up not sharing our greatness with the world because we're being too self-critical. What's your biggest tip for people to kind of get over that hurdle and start sharing on a daily basis or letting people into their world through social media?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, first and foremost, they're not again, I swear I'm not like this Paris Hilton like crazy fan, but I noticed that even Paris, it might not look like it on her phone, but at events, like she was shaking and she had anxiety. And I feel like recently I've been noticing other celebrities that they have debilitating anxiety too. Zendaya, right? And they might be transforming themselves into characters on like the movie screen and everything. But first and foremost, everyone goes through that. And if they don't, then they just happen to be like the very 5 percentile narcissist within the world. And they just got that and we didn't, and that's okay. And that's fine because they got that, but they might not have something else. So
yeah, they might have
the reminder, yeah, totally. I don't know what those issues are right now, but I would say always remind yourself of that. Big time stars, everyone has anxiety of presenting themselves to the world and like what are other people going to think about them. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. But what I like to say, because even I also overthink of going online and like, oh my gosh, am I being showy? Am I being annoying? I don't like the sound of my voice on camera, but people tell me I have a good podcast voice. So it's, I don't think many people will ever see there's always something to pick at, right? But a really good tip that I try to keep in mind and that I tell everybody that I work with is pretend like you're talking to your best friend. Obviously, if you have a consulting business and you much more prefer to be buttoned up, then it's going to be a little different. But even so, just think of it as talking to your best friend in the doctor's office. If you can't, if what your business or what your personal brand is a bit more buttoned up, do that. But if it's not, talk to the camera like it's your best friend, or even ask your best friend, because if they are your best friend, they'll be down for this. Say, hey, I'm trying to be more present on social. And what I'm going to have to do is send you a video of what I want to post today. And because they're your best friend, they're probably going to be like, yeah, girl, do it. Send me the video. Like, hype me up. And so I think that that's one of the best things that you can do is just pretend like you're talking to your best friend, because then people are going to feel that comfort. They're going to see that other side of you, right? Instead of just the first time meeting. And it's also a practice thing. It is a practice thing. And people forget sometimes when they see individuals on social and when they see them on media with these 500,000 followers, they forget that they've been on that for 8 years. And probably it's one of two things or both. They either have just gotten so good that they know how to have like their TV voice or their presence and they know how to do the thing. Or number two, they just don't give a shit anymore. They're like, I can't, when you do something so many times that you're just like, oh, it's, whatever. Yeah. I don't care anymore. So between acting like you're speaking to your best friend on social and just continually doing it, you'll feel better. And there's so many times, because for a long time, I wouldn't show my face on my art account because, to be completely honest, I didn't want people saying, oh, her art's only popular because of her body or some annoying thing like that. And so I didn't put myself on social for a long time. People actually thought that I was a guy, which sometimes I do miss because I find it so funny that people thought I was a man. The jig is up. I am not. But when I do go on social and I show my face and I, say whatever crazy thing comes out of my mouth, people they react really well to it. And I feel like that happens right with other people that I work with as well. You become surprised by the people that resonate with your words, that think you're funny, that you just never know. So you got to act like you're talking to your best friend, and you just got to keep doing it, because that's the only way that you're going to get better at it.
Oh, I love that. And I think that that's so true. I've experienced that. And if sometimes even just recording that video, talking to your best friend or talking to you, Kat, it's so much easier to talk to another person than it is just to talk to air. So having your best friend sit on the other side of the couch or whatever and be there while you talk to them, when really you're talking to your audience, is such a good idea, and making it personal. And you know what? I don't know anybody who, you've said there's some people who just naturally are so good at it, but 99% of people, I feel like, are in the exact same place. So if they are being critical of you, it's only because they're being critical of themselves also. So
totally. And I feel like another good point too is you're doing the damn thing. What, they're going to judge you for like working towards your dream? I feel like that's also a great thing to say back to yourself too, is like, they're going to judge you for working towards your dream. They're going to judge you for sharing information that you find is valuable and you think other people are going to find valuable too. Like,
laugh at
then
that.
It just kind of,
then they're on the out list.
Then that's me. So totally. They are not coming to our show, and they are not coming to our next fundraiser for the business. So yeah, absolutely.
It'll be you, me, and Paris. And that'll be
Totally. We won't need any selfie sticks because we'll have each other. So yeah.
Being in the present and trying to capture things, it's kind of like okay, I'm going to be a good mom. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be like here. But then, oh, wait, okay, crap, I got to like capture this, And it's so.
Oh my gosh. And that's also, I don't have that down. And that's like a hard thing to balance too, because even though half my business is media, I don't think that you should ever lose out on that present moment in an important celebration or with your kids, like we do only have one life. And so taking that moment to be fully present and feel it, go for that versus the selfie of recording it if you're in that contemplation mode, right? Because it's just this one day to live. And what you can always do too, if you ever find yourself like, oh shit, I didn't record it, I didn't capture it, you can always do a little like recap selfie video later and be like, hey, this is what I did. I didn't capture it because I was just living it, and then if anything, right, there can be the benefit of that where people are like, oh, well, I didn't see it. Like, I didn't see your intimate dinner that you cooked for those people. Like, I want to see another one in the future. Like, send it to me. And so, right, there ends up being a benefit from not capturing it that time. But the important thing is to remember, right, just because we didn't capture it this time, then we'll just have to capture something else. So, and again, that's just a journey that I don't have the exact answer to, but it's all a part of like the exploration process with it.
Well, I have loved our conversation, and I just want to recap a couple of lessons that I got from today. One, be somebody's hype girl. So going out and cheering somebody on, that's a huge role that we can positively play in our world, and take after you, Kat, in doing that. Being easier on ourselves. So, relaxing into our schedule, our flow, which version of ourselves today we want to capture. Practicing because we're all here exploring, we're adventuring, we're practicing. We don't have to be perfect. And letting go of any of those energy suckers in your life and loving on them from a distance, but allowing yourself to have that space. You don't have to please everyone. You can fill yourself up and surround yourselves with expanders, and then you're able to have that energy and that extra vitality in order to really share your craft, your voice, and all your expertise. So I'm so grateful that you could be with us today. Will you tell us?
Thank you so much for having me on.
Where can people find you?
You're
gonna want to see all your art now and your manly outfit.
I know. Yeah, don't forget, everybody. I'm sorry when you don't see a man on that page. I am a woman. Well, first, I'll plug myself and then finish. But if you want to join me on Tom Cat Radio is my podcast. Again, it's conversations with creatives, pioneers, and those that get shit done. If you want to see my art creations, that is Tom Cat Atelier. That is TomCatAtelier. And you can find me there. But I want to take the second to just appreciate you, because I remember, and I know I told you and Mama G this specifically, but I was in a social media group, and a girl talked about how her client was just awesome and starting to change her life. And working with you and Mama G has just totally transformed my life too, besides giving me amazing drinks to drink in the morning so that I don't have to be cracked out on coffee. But you and Mama G are just such amazing human beings, and you get shit done being a mom and being a badass entrepreneur that you are. So I'm just so grateful to be able to talk to you and share our little conversation with others too.
Thank you. Well, I'm so grateful to have somebody in my life like you that inspires me, not only on a daily basis, but to expand and share my art, as well as, some of our other stuff. So, and I get to see you tomorrow. So, but
I'm so excited.
Everybody loves this episode. I know they're going to get a lot from it. And thanks for being part of Wildly Healthy.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on Wildly Healthy.
See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in for another awesome episode of the Wildly Healthy podcast. We hope you're feeling inspired to redefine norms and live your best life. If you loved what you heard and want more empowering conversations, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our latest episodes. Don't forget to share this with your favorite mother-daughter duos and encourage them to join our community. We want to hear from you. So drop us a comment below with your takeaways, questions, or simply to share your thoughts. Your feedback keeps us going and helps us create content that truly resonates. Thank you for being part of our tribe, and remember, stay wild, stay healthy, and keep thriving. Until next time,